Today we're going to be looking at a Lucio VOD review. This VOD review is a silver Lucio player on Hanamura. For silver and bronze players, typically what I'm going to be focused on is ability usage first and foremost. I think a lot of times in lower ranks, the one thing you struggle with just all the different dynamics of the ability usage. And then the second thing is how that kind of works with the team. I'm not really going to get too in depth about enemy team comps, what you should be doing against them. A lot of times at this rank, you're just trying to get focused on more of the basics of the game, certain things that you might be struggling with. So I'm going to start off by kind of going through, for those of you that are new, I'm going to go through the abilities themselves, what they do. Lucio is probably one of the most dynamic players and, in my opinion, one of the most difficult support players to play. On top of that, the support role is probably one of the most difficult roles to play. Not only are you trying to heal up your team, you have other abilities outside of that help your team do other things. So in this case, Lucio, speed boost. Then you have to figure out when's the right time to be aggressive, to go on the attack, and then focus on 6 enemies as well too. So there's going to be a lot to look at, especially in a Lucio VOD review. I'm not going to get into crazy mechanical skills with Lucio, about wall riding, and there's all sorts of videos out there about proper wall riding, how to really utilize that for getting behind enemy lines. For a silver VOD review, you can go ahead and look at those special texts and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to mainly look at the basics. To start off, your first ability is going to be your crossfade, which is switching between healing and speed boost. Lucio's interesting from the standpoint of his healing output is one of the least, but of course it has an area of effect. So what it's doing is it's a spread out, I believe it's a 14-meter effect for your entire team. It's a 12-meter radius for your entire team. So what you see in the middle of the screen there, just to kind of start off, is you see the 3. So he's got 3 of his teammates within that area to start off that's able to, currently he's got speed boost on, so they can move around quicker. The healing output is 16 per second. Again, one of the lowest outputs out of any other support player. And then the speed boost allows them to be 25% faster. To kind of put that in perspective for you players that play soldier, his running ability does 50%. The speed boost is actually probably one of the most underrated abilities, I would say, in lower ranks. I don't want to get hardcore into pro play, but the pro play utilization of speed boost, what it does is it allows you to not only get into positions faster, it gives you the ability to retreat and get behind cover faster. It gives you the ability for the entire team to rush them down, depending on your composition. I'll get into that a little bit. Your second ability is amplify. So what that does is it increases either your healing that you have turned on or your speed that you have turned on. The healing is 50 seconds, or 50 healing per second, which is a significant amount of healing. And that amplification, I believe, lasts for 3 seconds. Yes, it lasts for 3 seconds. So what you can do is 150 healing for every single hero for that entirety of that healing, or you can actually run at 60% faster speed. Now, that 60% faster speed is incredibly powerful because you could pretty much rush anyone down incredibly fast within that time frame. And the third ability is your sonic wave, or what a lot of people just say is your booping. Um, it doesn't do a ton of damage. It only does 25 damage, but it puts the enemy outside of, like, there's two ways you can kind of use it. If there's an enemy player right up in your face, or in a group of enemies in your face, you can push them further back. Or if you get behind them, like let's say an Orisa that's playing behind a shield, you can actually boop her forward to get her out of position so you can focus and kill her. I'm mainly going to look at that ability for displacing. I think when you start getting into like gold and platinum play, you're looking to try to get behind enemy lines to communicate that you're going to be booping people forward so you can focus them down. That's not going to happen as much in silver. And then you have your ultimate ability, which is it takes a couple seconds to cast because you got to hit the ground. And what that does is everyone in the area 750 shield, which is an absurd amount of shield. This ability I'll go into when eventually he does get it. I'll go into like kind of when you should be using it. I would say that there's kind of 3 scenarios to be using it. But we'll go into that ultimate ability because there are going to be some nuances. This is where depends on where you're at in level of play, where that ability is probably one of the strongest defensive abilities in the game. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm just going to start off by kind of playing this first fight, just to kind of get to see what this player is doing. And I do appreciate, thank you so much for sending in this VOD review. This is Riney282. We'll check to see. I don't know if this is a win or a loss, so we'll see how this game goes. This is the first time I've been looking at it. So let's just watch this first fight. I'll reverse it, kind of go through some things that I'm seeing.
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective
Okay. All right, there's a few things that I'm already seeing right after the start here. First off, I'm going to go through your team composition. I should have gone through that before I started playing this, because as a support player, you really want to have a better understanding of your team, kind of what they're able to do. As I do more and more VOD reviews, I'll explain, of course, different team compositions. In silver, it's good to know what your team does, and kind of what their abilities are. I'm not going to go in depth about their abilities, but if you want to be able to support your team as best as possible, especially as a Lucio, you want to understand who they are. So you have a Reinhardt and a Roadhog as your tanks. Now, those two players, their greatest strength is getting up close in your face, where they can hammer, hook, use shotgun, all sorts of stuff. Mei as well too. Mei actually has an ice shot that can shoot long distances, but you also want to get the enemy up close so you can freeze them, you can wall them off. Torb's a little different. Torb is more of a mid-range shooter, but also can put a turret in interesting spots. The one thing that you also have on this team is a Moira. Moira does a lot of healing. The second part of this too is in terms of your healing. What you're going to see is that your Roadhog can self-heal. So he doesn't need a ton of healing a lot. Plus Lucio isn't going to be able to do a lot of healing overall unless you're amping it up to your tanks. So your Moira should be mainly focusing on your tanks. Now I get into a later discussion about if the Moira is doing their job in terms of actually healing the tanks up, but you shouldn't be so focused on making sure that the tanks are up. That's going to be Moira's job. Then your two DPS players, your Mei has Ice Block, so she can heal herself. And then on top of it too, your Torb has, I can't think of the name of the ability, but it's got, it's like an overcharge where he gets like a burst of extra armor. You're not going to need to do a lot of healing with this team composition. And the one thing I noticed in this first fight is your healing was on the entire time the fight started. Especially when you're playing on a map like Hanamura, it's good to be able to duck behind cover and in front of cover a lot more than just having random healing just going at only 16 healing per second. I think people get too hung up. This is weird to tell a support player don't heal so much, but in the case of Lucio, you have to find that balance. When you see people getting in and out of position, you can go back and heal up. You can switch back and forth, but don't just keep it on the healing. That's kind of the first thing I'm seeing. The second thing I'm seeing is your positioning. Positioning is a lot more difficult to talk about, but first off, you have a gun that shoots projectiles. So you don't have to be so close to the front line. You could play much further back. Plus, playing further back gives you a better field of vision of what the rest of your players are doing. So I'm going to kind of play this first thing out. I know you're probably trying to get some ult charge, but you shouldn't be up here by yourself. If a Hanzo hits you right there, with one headshot, you're done. And as a support player, you don't want to die. That's like your number one goal as a support player is don't die. Nobody wants to die, but you really don't want to lose a support player right off the beginning of a fight, especially on Hanamura, because their spawn's so close and your spawn's really far away. So you have healing on, and if you notice right away, you have healing on. No one needs healing. And it's something I think you should pay attention to as we keep watching this VOD review. It's no one needs healing, no one needs healing, no one needs healing, no one needs healing, no one needs healing. Now, the Torb does, but there's nothing you can do about it. He's so far away. You still have healing on. There's, I'm actually going to take a look at something real quick. You know, maybe you'll start switching later on in the game. And right here, there's no, your aura, you can actually see the yellow line out there. It's 12 per second. You amp it up. Now this is your second ability. That's you amp it up right here while you're in healing, and no one needs healing. It's vitally important to understand, like, this is why this game is, one of the most difficult games you'll play in terms of teamwork. So already you've been using healing for a long time where it's unnecessary, and your Moira looks like they're doing their job, keeping the tanks up. You're way out in front of everyone, so you don't even know what's happening behind you. You actually should be playing more further back. You can actually pay attention to maybe when the Moira needs healing. Now, the Moira needing healing and keeping her alive is more important than worrying about what the tanks are doing. Let Moira worry about the tanks. If Moira starts doing a poor job, then you can worry about the tanks later. That's how you use the, I'm just going to say the boop gun. That's how you use the boop gun. That's perfect. The Roadhog hooked you. Luckily, he didn't land like a good headshot on you. Get him as far away as possible. Retreat. Perfect use of your amp. Try to play in a better position to where you don't get hooked, but that's a great use of that gun, getting him back out of position so he doesn't kill you. Perfect. So, right, you keep kind of stepping back, what I would say is in the right position, and it's good to kind of keep moving. But you don't need to keep moving so much forward and backwards. Try to keep moving side to side. You can get headshot or easier shot if you're moving in a straight line forward. If you move side to side, you're much harder to hit. Plus, you're getting a better field of vision. Right now, you're getting this really just mixed. Hanamura's choke point is kind of difficult. And right there is probably when you would want healing and amp it up. So you got healing on, but you don't have amp it up. So you used it earlier, and you didn't get any value for it. So it's always about getting value, especially with your Moira getting low. But now you don't have the amp it up, so you're going to be doing way lower. You get hit by a rock because you keep moving forward and back, and you get bursted down. So you didn't really get a ton of value out of that entire scene. You just did a lot of, your healing was on, but you didn't do a lot of healing. And if you had speed boost on, your players can move in and out behind that gate, those gates much quicker. Okay? Alright, so it's kind of interesting here. So why are you using speed boost here? I know I'm belaboring a point, but you're using speed boost here to get in position faster. That's exactly why you're using it. Okay, so your Torb needs healing. Pretty straightforward. Always on 2 CP maps, or what you want to do is if you die in this location, they actually do quicker spawns now. So it's good to go in and try to get this fight. The only difference is what you did is you went in by yourself as teammates were dying. Sometimes it's good to hold back and maybe get 1 or 2 players, because you going in by yourself is kind of a mistake, especially as a Lucio. With your speed boost, what you can do is don't panic, because think about it this way. You're not going to be able to kill the entire enemy team by yourself. You're much better off giving them an extra tick, giving them a couple extra seconds, don't panic, and bringing another player with you. At least just one. You have a much better chance. So, if you want to look back at kind of what happened with the deaths, and this is why it's important to look at the feed. So you lost 1 player. You die. No one else dies. You lose your Mei. So your Mei should be coming back soon. What you're doing is you're going into this fight already down 3 people. Now your Torb's going to get there in time. So you're better off bringing your Mei with you at least, instead of you just flying in there by yourself. Because you lose your main healer. Now this is where it gets a little sketchy. I don't believe you have time to wait for your Moira, but bringing your Mei is much better. Because trickling 1 at a time, you're not going to defend this. So you lose your main tank. And then you're going to go into this, and your Torb dies. And now you're going into this fight by yourself. So it's just something to kind of pay attention to if you get an opportunity. You were just trying to go there to try to stall the point. That's okay. And actually, the second thing was there, again, your boop gun is really good use of it. You didn't really stand much of a chance in that fight. But again, when I'm looking at ability usage is what you're utilizing it for. Again, that was another good displacement. Try to get the Sigma out of your face. Unfortunately, it just wasn't going to matter at that point. But so far, some just kind of quick notes is I'm actually going to put this in here. kind of working with this stuff since this is my first VOD review here. So what to work on so far is, one, using speed boost. Proper amp up usage. And then the one thing that I think you're doing so far well is boop gun. Now again, I'm not getting into the dynamics of getting behind enemy lines and booping people forward. I think communication really isn't the greatest in silver and low gold type games anyways. So you're probably not going to have a lot of people follow up on that too well. But we'll just keep kind of playing this game out, see what you got going here. That first point in Hanamura is always a really interesting one. This second one is... The second one is interesting depending on how your team plays this. This seems to always be a mixed bag in gold games. You get people who play so split usually on this point. They play all high ground on some people will go high ground left hand side, some people go right hand side. This is where I wish communication was better in these games, but I'm kind of checking to see how your team plays this. But this is also going to be important too, to be able to move around, because in the middle of this point you are wide open. And this is where, again, this sounds nitpicky, but you're going back to just using healing. You don't need healing yet. Okay, you switched it to speed boost. I like that you still have speed boost on. That's good. It helps people get in position. Again, your team is really split. You should be trying to assist your team up high. I know a Junkrat's coming low, but I think you're trying to figure out where your team is. You guys are up two. You tried to boop them back. That's good. Your team actually did a really good job of killing everyone here, and they wasted an ultimate. I have to admit, you seem a little lost on this first defense here, but I think you had a good team that ended up taking out a couple people. But I think you need to find a better position to play with your team to make a little bit more of an impact. Again, you really don't need any healing here. Okay, now I'm going to get into sound barrier. You have your ultimate here. There is 3 main usages of this. Of course, there's always different nuances to this. Is 1, you have a really, really low teammate, like a tank player. So you use sound barrier to save their life. I would say if you're in really, really low ranks, in your thought process is try to save a teammate so you don't lose a fight. That's fine. Probably in the bronze and silver range, that's okay. You don't, as you move up in rank, it's not really what you want to be using sound barrier for. Because again, there's a lot of solo play in bronze and silver type games. So if you're using it really to save a teammate in the middle of a team fight, that's okay, but that's really what you shouldn't be using it for. You should be able to trust your Moira in this situation to heal up your tanks and all that. It's such a powerful ultimate. Think about it this way. Roadhog gets 600 health. The sound barrier gives 750 shield that decays over time to the entire team. So it ends up lasting for 7 seconds. So it decays over time from 750 to 0 if you're not getting damaged. Okay. So there's 2 main usages for sound barrier. One is going to be what I would say is an engagement. So there's 2 nuances to 2 and 3 to use it. There's for an engagement. What I mean by that is you have your team together. you really need to go on the attack or use it to where people have a ton of health who can just go in and kill people. So you can be really aggressive with it. The third thing, the third ability, the third way to use Sound Barrier is to protect your team against an enemy ult. So this is one of the rare times where I'm going to talk about the enemy team. Because if you're using Sound Barrier for number 3, you're actually doing things beyond what I would say a silver player would do. Because what you're thinking about is, who are you playing up against? And I'm going to use this ability to save my team. Now, the hard part about the second one is the engagement one. Is a lot of times you need good communication, which doesn't really happen in silver, gold, plat, pretty much in everything from bronze to silver. You usually don't have a lot of good communication, but the thing is, because when you use it, you want everyone to go down and rush everyone down to kill them. And then if no one's communicating, you use Sound Barrier and everyone just stands around and they don't know what to do with it. The third one is easier to do from the standpoint of you're the one paying attention. You don't have to tell everybody what to do. You just use your ultimate to save everyone's life. So it's kind of an interesting situation. So what I'm looking to see here is likely, because you're on Hanamura defense, and if you're not grouped together, you're likely going to need to use Sound Barrier to protect against an ultimate. So one of those ultimates could be Junkrats, but that's a high amount of burst damage, and you have to do it really good timing. You could do it against a Bob, because Bob will sit there and shoot for a really long time. It's actually not a bad one to use it against. Moira's ability, Moira's Coalescence, you could, the way I would look at it here in silver is if you're using it to offset any other ultimate, I would say that you're doing a good job. And so I don't want to go like really hardcore into the nuances of it, but I'm really curious to see how you use this here. Again, you should be using speed boost. Especially when you're in this wide open area. You're spamming shots. It's good. Probably need to aim a little bit higher. You keep aiming really low. Okay. This is always hard in these games, but again, you have a tendency to kind of be either out in front too much, or kind of your positioning needs work for sure. Perfect. That, okay, if for those of you that are trying to learn how to use Lucio, the mere fact that you used Sound Barrier on an enemy ultimate, that's the best use of Sound Barrier to save your team. If you're doing this at this level, I see Sound Barrier wasted so much in the games I play, that to be doing this as a silver player is great. That was perfect to save your team. I'm gonna go back a little bit because I want to see who potentially you saved. You may not have saved anybody, but it's the right thought process. It's perfect. This is so he casts his ultimate. You get caught up in it. Man, the timing was really good. Now, look, So what that ultimate does is it takes half your health away, wherever you're at in your health pool. So if you were at 90% health, since Lucio's 200, you would have died. But the thought process is perfect. You likely wouldn't, no one would have died in this scenario, but that is how you use your ultimate every single time. That's a great use of it. I like how you're backing up here a little bit. You should have stayed further back. There's no need in getting into this brawl fight right here. You're also not really... Okay, you used amp there. Again, you're seeing a lot of just yourself. You're not really... You should play a little bit further back. You don't need to be this aggressive up front. You're putting yourself in harm's way a lot for no reason. I mean, this is going to sound harsh. If you're not confident with your shooting ability, because you're not accurate, you may want to switch heroes. Just throwing that out there. What you want to do, plus you'll get better practice at it. Play a little bit further back. The other thing that you didn't seem like you're really paying attention to is your Moira. Your Moira is one of your most important people to keep alive. And I've almost never seen your Moira this entire game. And that's not Moira's fault. It's more of your positioning. Team's doing a really good job here. I'm just going to let things play out here for a little bit. I think, and I'm just going to put, so I think there's three main things that so far that you need to work on. Your positioning. So you're too much in front. Now I'm already going to give you kudos for your sound barrier. Great. Alt usage. Okay, I'm going to play this out for a little bit, just kind of see how things are going. Because I'm just kind of seeing the same consistency in terms of what you're doing. Again, just constantly keeping healing on. You're getting no value out of it. No one needs healing. This is one of the first times I've seen you kind of turn around to see what people were doing, but it looks like because you're trying to get in a different position, like that you use speed boost there. But again, right back to healing. Yeah, your positioning needs a lot of work. Now, right there, you saw your Moira was low. You should have used amped up healing right away. Anytime you see your other support player low, make sure they're healed up. That's the time that you need to use amp it up. Anytime you see that. You can boop Bob out of the way, which you did. Perfect. I was just kind of speeding up to get in the fight. Look, they're going to hold chokes. There's not a whole heck of a lot you can do just sitting right there with a Junkrat in your face. And unfortunately, you had sound barrier. Hopefully you get an opportunity to use sound barrier. Looks like your team's Hanamura. For attacking teams, Hanamura is a nightmare. You could be beating the crap out of them and you'll still end up losing. Okay, this is, it's interesting. This is where I would say the ult usage is fine because what you're trying to do is make sure you're securing the point, but this is where I would say is a lot of players at this rank don't pay attention to kill feed. The reason why I instantly had that face was you guys, as I just mentioned, like you guys were already taking the point. The easy way to actually kind of pay attention to that, if you're not very good at seeing the kill feed, I know I'm going backwards to where you died, but the numbers in the upper middle tells you how many people are contesting the point. Even if you're not good at counting who's alive and who's dead, right now it's showing you have 4 people on the point and they only have 2. And then on top of it too, if you're paying attention to the kill feed, you see 2 people die right away. You don't want to use sound barrier here. The thought process is right. Not paying attention to who's alive here and who's not. You don't really need to do that. You have spawn advantage. You should have waited for the next fight. Good thought process, but not understanding who's alive and dead is the problem. Your Reinhardt's getting super aggressive. You can't do anything about that. That's silver and gold for you. A Reinhardt just charging in a Narnia on defense. One thing is he'll come back quicker because he's close. Hey, trying to do some wall riding. Hey, that's really good to see. You should actually have speed boost on because you're not really healing anyone while doing that. You can boot people in the pit too. That's a good time. If you put people in the pit, there's not a lot you can do with environmental kills on this. On the right hand side there is, but actually it'd be on the right hand side there is. But you can boot people in that pit. It takes them a while to get around on the stairs. And the more people you put out of position on attacking makes it even way harder. So just putting the Sigma in the hole, that's when you should have used it.
30 seconds.
So that's where you're doing well for getting people out of your face with the boot gun, but that's where the positioning stuff comes in. Probably not going to be a whole heck of a lot here. So I'm just kind of speeding this up to get through it. And they didn't make a point. Okay. Let's go to attack.
Initiating match. Attack commences in 30 seconds. I pass many. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay. I already know that I'm going to be saying the same thing, so I'm going to try to not keep doing it. Especially on attack and Hanamura. Getting through this first choke point. So this is where also understanding the maps. Speed boost is going to be really helpful. Especially when you have a Roadhog or Reinhardt. You want to get through that choke quickly. I have a sneaking suspicion you're going to keep healing on a lot. We'll see how this goes. You have a Genji now. Genji's going to need a little bit more healing, but the hard part is you're probably not going to be tracking with him. But hopefully you're using speed boost a little bit more here on this one.
1. Attack commences. Capture objective A.
Speed boost to start. That's what you should be doing. Trying to get the person off the high ground. Go straight to healing. So you can tell. I do want to be careful here about the speed boost thing. I probably should go back for a second. You don't need to use speed boost all the time either. This is like the harder nuance part. Use it incrementally. Like, use it for short bursts. If you feel like you're trying to get to a point, like from like one corner to another, use it. Turn your healing back on. Look, you want to keeping your healing on is fine, like primarily, but trying to get to a position, turn it on. Trying to track down an enemy player that's on a position, turn it on. Then switch back to healing. Get behind a wall, switch back to healing. Switch it back and forth, but just use it slowly. Don't just turn on healing, or don't just turn on speed boost and never heal again. I want to be really clear about that, because I think a lot of people are going to hear this and be like, oh, I should just turn speed boost on because I have a Moira. No, maybe the Moira is terrible and not healing your players. No, you want to get into a position, put on healing, go to the next position, put on healing. Keep your healing on for the most part. Just use speed boost more. Not much you can really do here. You shouldn't have gone in there like that. Again, I think you have this tendency to want to like maybe this is another part of it that I need to explain. The closer you are to the healer or to the person doesn't mean you're healing them more. It's just 16 healing if they're inside that circle. There's no like, you have a tendency, I think, to want to get closer to them. You have a gun, shoot from further back. Keep them within that circle. You have 12 meters. You don't need to be at 2 meters. So. Okay, this is just a lost fight. Actually, I should know not to go forward 20 seconds. Okay, you're trying to get back into the fight. Most of your players are in front of you. I like that you're paying attention to the high ground there. Again, you're way too out in front and you get pinned. You're just playing way too out in front with that hero. You don't need to be. You have a gun and you have an aura. You don't need to be that close. I'm wondering if actually your positioning is something more to work on than your healing and speed boost changes. I'm taking the objective. You're kind of dying too much needlessly. By the way, if you do the wall riding, you actually go faster. I'm not going to get into text about wall riding and super fancy stuff. If you noticed, you jumped much quicker. When you jump wall riding, you go way faster. So if you can get better at wall riding and jumping, you can get to the point much faster. Now's the perfect time to poop. Perfect. Environmental kill. That's what Lucio's, of course, Reddit Lucio's, you see all the time do that kind of stuff. Fantastic kill. Don't use sound barrier. Look, you tried.
Commence attack on objective B.
Don't 1v1 a Junkrat up close. Use your gun.
Objective A.
You took the point, which is good. And I'm glad. Here's the other thing is too, you're disciplined to not use sound barrier, even though the ultimate went off. You want the sound barrier for this next fight. Now this is where I feel that you're going to use an aggressive sound barrier, hopefully. It's just now that you died, but you've got a close spawn. Looks like you should have everyone. Again, you should be paying attention. Where's your team? Where's your team? I honestly don't know right now. You're playing too far forward. I actually think positioning is the #1 thing you need to work on. Play further back. Utilize your gun. Don't die as easily. Then work on using your speed boost more, and then your proper amp it up usage. This is by far like the biggest thing I'm noticing is your positioning's really bad. It's getting you killed and your way out in front and you don't know where you are. I shouldn't say where you are, you don't know where your team is. And as a support player, you need to know where your team is. I have no idea if they took high ground. If you look, they're all on high ground. You're only with your Roadhog. Your Roadhog needs, here's the thing is your Roadhog needs no help. If he wants to play flanking, your off tank can do things like this. Let him do it. You should be with your Reinhardt, speed boosting him, playing with the high ground with the rest of your team. I know I haven't done that much on this. I actually forgot what the buttons were. So I'm just going to do a top-down view of this real fast. This is the one downside of playing console. The controls for this is just maddening. Okay. So okay. You're out in front here. Your Moira, your Tord, and your Reinhardt all take high ground. And you have no idea where they are. And you're sitting here. Again, they would rather have the speed boost and help up top. So, okay, something to consider is you need to pay more attention to what's going on around you. Got a couple picks. Should be using sound barrier here. Should have used it a little earlier. So here's another weird one to pay attention to. Your Genji uses Blade. It's actually great to use it then because if you use Blade, I hate that I can only reverse 20 seconds, but keeping him alive while he's doing that because technically the enemy team should be paying attention to it. Right there. Use it there. You want to keep him alive. But I think you use your ult a little too late, but better late than never. You almost died before you were able to use it. You used to amp it up. You could have gotten burst in. You guys gonna pull this off right here? Man, your torp is popping off. Okay. So definitely the main things, I've said this a million times, but definitely position. You have a tendency to not know where your team is, and I think it's because you're playing way too out in front. The Moira is going to play a little bit more out in front. Let the tanks play out in front of you. As a Lucio support, it's also like there's different combinations and all that, but what you should also understand is technically Lucio should be bouncing back and forth between the front line and the back line. I didn't really get hardcore into that. If I was doing like a platinum review, I'd probably go a little bit more in depth into that, but you're too out in front, you don't know where your team is. And definitely that shouldn't be happening as a Lucio. Now, this is what I didn't get. If you were going to get aggressive and go wall ride and get behind the enemy lines to go kill a support player, that's a totally different thing. But you're playing like a frontline tank as a support player. You either play super aggressive, go out on a flank and kill a support player, back in enemy lines and come back and speed boost, or you play behind your team. There's no reason for you to be in the middle. So work on your positioning, first and foremost. Work on mixing in speed boost every once in a while. And then when to properly amp it up if you're really trying to rush things down, or if you need to like heal someone up. But I think you do a good job with your boop gun. A lot of times that usage was, I think you could have used it more often, but your general usage of it was good, and your ult usage was really good. Plus, you're disciplined and not use it on that first point, even though an ultimate was coming in, because I could tell clearly you know to use it during an ultimate, and you didn't use it then because there was no need. You guys are going to take that first point, and it's such a powerful ultimate. And using it for that second point probably helps secure that win. That's the other thing is maybe there's a lot of things you need to work on, but all you have to do is a couple really big plays. One, booping, you boop the Sigma off the first point, which is really big. It's a quick, easy kill. And then the second thing is you used your ultimate. You didn't waste it, which happens so much on Lucio play, and you used it on the second point, which helps secure the win. So those are good things that you're doing, and for those of you watching this, keep doing that. So thank you for sending in the VOD review. Any type of comments you may have, anything that you guys may have for me to improve upon, I'm still kind of working on how to like display different notes and all that. I'm going to try to do maybe some more screen sharing and showing a couple different things, but hopefully this helped you guys out. Please send comments in, leave comments down below. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys.